What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Scriv, and welcome back to the channel. So, in today's episode of TokuTalk, we are going to talk about just exactly who is Daiji Igarashi from the current season of Kamen Rider Revice. Now, before we get into that, let me all thank you guys for coming in and spending just a little bit of time with me. If this is your first time here on the channel, make sure that you do hit that subscribe button. And if you do enjoy the content of this video, please give it a thumbs up, because doing that will also help my channel get out there within the YouTube community so that more Kamen Rider and Toku fans such as yourself can be able to find my channel and see the content that I post. Now, just exactly who is Daiji Igarashi? Now, in the current season of Kamen Rider Revice, he is the second born of the Igarashi family. Now, of course, our main character, Iki Igarashi, he's the main protagonist, Kamen Rider Revice. But there's a lot of different character dynamics when it comes to Daiji. And I found it very, very interesting and whatnot, because it's like, in a sense, he does seem a little bit relatable. So let me explain. Now, when it comes to the Igarashi family, it is basically sibling-wise. It's Iki, who's the firstborn, Daiji, who is the middle child, and then the youngest daughter, Sakura. Now, we learn within the series that the father, who went by the name of Genta, we learn that his actual real name is Junpei. And so back when the Phoenix Corporation was in their infancy stage, that Junpei had actually volunteered to become a Kamen Rider, so that with him working with the Phoenix Corporation to basically fight the overall threat, which is Lord Gift. And so we learn that pretty much the overall story or the overall theme of Kamen Rider Revice is that it's basically demon theme. So everybody has their own inner demon that they must, either basically confront to get rid of, or basically, just, live simultaneously with. And so we learned that Junpei wound up developing his own inner demon named Veil. And so Junpei wound up becoming Kamen Rider Veil, but he winds up relinquishing Veil out of his, I guess you could say, out of his inner world, or out of his subconscious. And so before that Veil wound up being exiled from Junpei, Veil wound up pretty much leaving I don't want to say some of his DNA, but he wound up leaving his influence in Junpei's DNA. So we then learn that Veil is basically an offspring to Lord Gift himself, right? And so because of that, Iki, Sakura, as well as Daiji, they all have their inner demons, which are basically, how do I want to put it? Their inner demons are basically like extensions of Gift himself. And so, of course, Sakura, she has Love-kun. Then you have Iki that actually has Vice. But then we also learn that Daiji, his inner demon is named Kagero. And so the dynamic between Daiji and Kagero at first was, to me personally, it was a little boring and whatnot, because it was just, Daiji battling his inner demon and stuff like that. And, Kagero was basically, the typical, bad guy that's, trying to take over his host's body, right? And so now when it came to that dynamic, you kind of really didn't start to see like any change or anything like that in Daiji. And so Daiji always had what I call the middle child syndrome, to where he would get himself in danger, but then somebody always had to come and save him, i.e. Iki. And so without the not without but within the entire series, every time Daiji would get into trouble and Iki had to come and save him, you will see that he started to resent his older brother and whatnot. And so that right there is what his inner demon Kagero was using to feed himself to get more powerful, his resentment for his older brother. And so now where things started to take at first I thought it was like a good shift and whatnot, is that because Daiji was actually on the first episode, he was actually supposed to become Kamen Rider Revice, but he wound up getting scared when the Dead Man Alliance pretty much started to attack. So of course Iki, stepped in. He just was like, look, I ain't got time for this. So he becomes Revice. And so of course, Daiji wound up, kind of resenting that fact. But then later, Daiji winds up becoming Kamen Rider Evil, or his demonic counterpart Kagero becomes Kamen Rider Evil. And so at first, Kagero will always take over Daiji without, Daiji's consent. And so, of course, every time that Kamen Rider Evil will make his appearance, it was always Kagero. And so over the course of time, Kagero was getting more and more powerful. And of course, Daiji more and more weaker. Now, when it comes to his middle child syndrome, like I said, Daiji was always being the one to get rescued and stuff like that. So of course that resentment started to kind of form. Now where everything takes that shift to where I don't know exactly where they're going with this as of recent, because we're literally about, I'll say, 8 to 10 episodes before the series comes to an end. And so Kagero winds up battling Daiji, because when one of the gimmicks to Kamen Rider Revice is that they have what is called Vice stamps. And so with the Vice stamps, Iki is able to take his Rex Vice stamp himself, and so his demon Vice would actually be able to manifest into the physical realm or the physical world, and actually, materialize and be able to interact and, stuff like that. Well, they never really showed this before, but Daiji all of a sudden just took his Vice stamped himself, and, brought Kagero into the real world. And so, of course, the two of them battled it out and whatnot. And so that's when, before them, Daiji winds up actually kind of gaining his consciousness and stuff. And so he becomes Kamen Rider Live. So now, of course, fast forwarding and whatnot to the battle of Daiji and Kagero is Kamen Rider Evil versus Kamen Rider Live. And so George, who is the I guess you could say the techno scientist of the series, he creates a Vice stamp called the Holy Wing Vice stamp, gives it to Daiji. And so because Kagero was defeated in this episode, Daiji winds up becoming Kamen Rider Holy Live. And so when I looked at that, I was like, okay, maybe this is a progression to Daiji, and that he's basically going to, be not necessarily the most powerful Kamen Rider or whatever, because of course the secondary rider cannot be more powerful than the main rider and stuff. But I was kind of expecting a higher expectation of Daiji, right? But then where things are starting to fall down at is that you can slowly see Daijis descent into the darkness, because he winds up Now, I don't know if this was a love interest for him. They never really gave any kind of subliminal hint so far as I know of. If it was a subliminal love interest with this person named Akemi, you guys let me know in the comments, because I didn't pick it up if that was a love interest. But Akemi winds up pretty much dying within, I think it was like, it was a few episodes ago. I'll say maybe like 3 to 5 episodes before yesterday's weekly episode. But because Akemi was killed, then you see that the descent into darkness is now starting to take over Daiji. So we now, for context, we find out that the Phoenix Corporation is not all of what they are basically who they say that they are. The overall commander of the Phoenix Corporation, he's been working with Lord Gift basically for a while now. And so the Phoenix Corporation was just a cover-up. Well, Daiji basically is remaining under the head commander's, basically staying under, working with the head commander. And so now he's starting to believe that everybody is like pretty much falling in everything and falling under the power of Lord Gift. That's the only way that the human race can go and stuff. So we see that he is now falling into the anti-villain role. And I don't know how they're going to execute that per se, because we are in the third act of the season. So we're about 9 to 10 episodes away from the season ending. And so when it comes to Daiji, I am so confused when it comes to where they're trying to go with Daiji. Like, I see where they're trying to go, but how they're executing it is, it's like, okay, y'all could have done this in like the middle of the season, starting off at like episode 15 or whatever, to where we start to see his slow descent. And now it's up to Sakura as well as Iki, as his siblings, to pull him back to the side of good. But waiting until now to make him a full-on villain, I really don't see if he's even going to be redeemable and stuff. And so him being the middle child, okay, he has that resentment against Iki. Sakura being the youngest sibling, hasn't really done anything for Daiji to have any resentment against her. And that's the one thing that I see a lot of times, here in the real world, when it comes to siblings of 3, is that the middle child never has a resentment towards the youngest sibling. It's always towards the oldest sibling. And so, case in point, I'm the oldest out of 3. And so I have a younger brother, and over the course of the years of us growing up, my younger brother has had some form of a resentment against me throughout the course of us growing up. And I mean, and then mind you, that was just when we were growing up, but now we're the best of friends. So I don't know if they're going to go with that dynamic to where they wind up on like the very last episode, after the main villain is defeated, Daiji, realizes the error of his ways, and he goes back to the side of good. But me personally, I don't see a redeeming arc when it comes for Daiji, because he's falling into a slow descent of evil. Well, how are y'all gonna pull him out of that? Just exactly what is his reason for falling into this descent? Now, when it comes to the character Akemi that he was trying so desperately hard to save, I understand that because she died, he's heartbroken and stuff like that. But there was no buildup between the two of them that anything was going on when it comes to them of being a love interest or anything like that. Yeah, you could say that, he was trying to save her and stuff like that. And because he couldn't save her, then he begins to realize, well, if I couldn't save one person, how can I save all of humanity? Yeah, I kind of get that. But it's like the way that they were building up the relationship between Daiji and Akemi is, I can't really say that I would believe that, if that makes sense. So I I'm just so confused when it comes to Daiji Igarashi. And then maybe you guys probably like Daiji more than y'all like Sakura. Maybe y'all like him more than you like Iki and whatnot. Like I kind of like the dynamic trio thing that they're going for when it comes to the three siblings and stuff like that. Now really to be honest, I don't have a favorite Kamen Rider character when it comes to Revice. I kind of like them all and everything. I love their suit designs. I love their character arcs, their character development, stuff like that. Some things are a lot more confusing than others, but that's just me and whatnot. But I would love to hear what you guys think about, the character of Daiji. Where do you think that they're going to go forward from here when it comes to his character development? Do you think that his character arc because really if you think about it, he's going through his villain arc right now. Do you think that he's redeemable with his demon arc? Why or why not? Do you guys like Daiji? Do you not like Daiji? Why? Like, let's begin this conversation in the comments below. Tell me what you think about him. Why do you like him? Why don't you like him? Do you like anything about him? Do you hate anything about him? Let's talk about this in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. And so I'm going to end this video here. I thank you guys once again for coming to my channel. This has been your boy Scrib, and I will see you guys next week.